The sun beat down on the city like it was trying to press every person into the pavement. Its glare bounced off the high-rise windows until the sidewalks shimmered like sheets of molten glass. People hurried past one another, talking into phones, balancing coffees, chasing deadlines no one else could see. It was just another chaotic afternoon downtown, except for the single moment when Aaron Whitlock's entire future hung in the balance. He walked with long, determined strides, clutching a resume folder so tightly that the edges bent under his fingers. This was the day he had been preparing for, the job interview that might finally lift him out of the cycle of part-time gigs and overdue bills. He had ironed his one good shirt 3 times that morning, praying the stubborn wrinkle on the sleeve wouldn't show. His heart thumped beneath the thin fabric, trying to keep pace with the hope he'd stuffed into his chest. Everything depended on this opportunity. He checked his watch. He was early. Good. He wanted to impress them. Wanted them to see past the small apartment he lived in, past the secondhand clothes, past the tiredness in his eyes. He wanted them to see the man he was trying to become. But halfway across Weston Avenue, the universe interrupted. A young woman stumbled into the crosswalk ahead of him, her movements clumsy and uncoordinated as she dropped to her knees. Her shoulder-length hair, a soft honey gold, spilled forward, hiding her face as she tried to catch a breath she couldn't seem to find. The bright red of her dress clashed with the pale shade her skin had turned. People walked around her, stepped over her, avoided eye contact like she was a problem they couldn't afford to acknowledge. Aaron didn't even think. His feet changed direction before his mind fully caught up. If kindness still had a place in the world, if doing what was right still meant something, he chose to believe it did. He knelt beside her. Hey. Hey, are you okay? His voice was steady, though she looked anything but. Her hands trembled when she tried to lift herself. I don't feel right, she whispered, barely audible over the traffic. I haven't eaten since yesterday. I didn't think it would hit me like this. Her breath came in shallow, rapid bursts. Sweat dotted her forehead even though the breeze was mild. Aaron slipped an arm gently around her back, helping her sit upright. It's okay. Just breathe. I've got you. He guided her toward a shaded bus stop bench just beyond the curb. The whole time he shielded her from the blinding sunlight with his own body, feeling the heat scorch his shoulders. Here, he said, offering his half-full water bottle. She hesitated, then sipped gratefully, her breathing slowly settling. Her shoulders stopped trembling, color cautiously returned to her cheeks. Minutes passed. 10. Then 15. His interview time approached, and then slipped away. He watched the clock on his phone tick forward like a slow, cruel reminder, but he stayed. She needed someone. He could deal with the consequences later. Finally, she managed to stand on her own. Thank you, she whispered, brushing hair from her face. Her eyes, a striking soft blue, held a mix of embarrassment and gratitude. You didn't have to help me. I think I did, he smiled faintly. He helped her call a ride, waited until the black sedan pulled up, and held the door as she climbed in. Before the car drove away, she turned back, as if wanting to say more, maybe to ask his name, but the driver pulled into traffic too quickly. Aaron exhaled and began walking. Every step felt heavier. By the time he reached the towering building that housed the company he'd dreamed of joining, Mercer and Crane Technologies, he already knew the truth. He was too late. The receptionist gave him a polite, apologetic look when he approached. I'm so sorry, she said gently. The hiring panel wrapped up early today. They've already chosen their candidate. He nodded, swallowing the sinking feeling in his chest. I understand. Her expression softened. She wanted to help, but couldn't. Rules were rules. He stepped outside into the afternoon heat again, the city buzzing around him with its usual cruelty, rushing, pushing, never noticing who fell behind. For the next week, nothing changed.
He woke before dawn to clean storage rooms that smelled like dust and cold metal. He delivered packages around town for a courier service that paid him barely enough to cover groceries. At night, he sorted boxes in a warehouse where the lights flickered more than they worked. He didn't tell anyone about the girl in the street. Good deeds, he believed, weren't meant to be bragged about. But the disappointment curled inside him like a quiet ache. He had wanted that interview. He had needed it. Yet, he didn't regret choosing her over the job. Some choices defined who you were. He wasn't willing to lose himself for a paycheck. Still, the world didn't seem to reward kindness. Bills piled on his small kitchen table. His savings dwindled. His hope wavered. Until one Thursday morning. He had just finished a delivery shift and was wiping sweat from his forehead when his phone rang, a number he didn't recognize. "Hello?" he answered, breathing lightly from the long walk. "Is this Mr. Aaron Whitlock?" a crisp female voice asked. "Yes." "This is Celeste Rayner, executive assistant to Mr. Vincent Lane, CEO of Mercer and Crane Technologies. Are you available to come to our headquarters immediately? Not for an interview, but for a private meeting requested personally by Mr. Lane." Aaron froze. "The CEO?" His heart skipped. Is everything okay?" "You'll understand when you arrive," she said simply. "Mr. Lane insists on meeting you today." Confused, shocked, nervous, he grabbed the next bus and pressed his palms against his knees the entire ride, trying to steady the whirl of questions in his head. At the top floor of the company's breathtaking headquarters, he was led into an office with floor-to-ceiling windows that flooded the room with sunlight. Everything from the polished floors to the mahogany desk looked like wealth carved into physical form. Behind that desk sat a tall man with silver at his temples and a seriousness in his posture that suggested he lived at the core of responsibility itself. "Mr. Whitlock," he said, standing to shake Aaron's hand. His grip was firm, warm. "Thank you for coming." On a nearby sofa sat the girl he had helped, wearing a soft cream blouse, her hair pulled back neatly, her face full of life again. She smiled at him, this time not weakly, but with warmth that lit her features. "Hi," she said gently. "I never got the chance to thank you properly." Aaron blinked. "You're okay. Because of you," she said. Then the CEO spoke. "This," he gestured toward her, "is my daughter, Harper." Aaron's breath caught. Vincent Lane continued, voice heavy with sincerity. "She told me everything. How you stopped, how you stayed with her, how you sacrificed the interview you were on your way to. When we reviewed the footage from the bus stop, we finally found you." Harper nodded. "I tried looking myself, but I didn't know your name." Vincent leaned forward. "Character," he said, "is worth more than credentials. Anyone can impress in an interview, but not many would give up their future to help a stranger." Aaron's throat tightened. "So," the CEO continued, "I want to offer you something better than the entry-level role you applied for. A position that will challenge you, train you, and reward the kind of integrity you showed my daughter." Aaron stared, stunned. "You're offering me a job?" "More than a job," Vincent said. "A future." Harper smiled again, eyes soft with gratitude. And for the first time in a long time, Aaron felt hope rise. Not timidly, not cautiously, but boldly, like sunlight breaking through the tallest of skyscrapers. Your real story, he realized, doesn't start when the world rewards you. It starts when you choose what's right, even when no one's watching.
For a long moment, Aaron didn't speak. His mind swirled with disbelief, relief, confusion, and something he hadn't felt in years, possibility. He sat there on the edge of the CEO's pristine leather chair, his palms damp, his pulse thumping like he'd just run the length of the entire city. "Mr. Lane," he finally said, his voice catching, "I don't know what to say." Vincent Lane waved a hand gently. Say yes. A flicker of humor warmed the otherwise stern lines of the CEO's face. He gestured for Aaron to take a seat on the sofa across from Harper. Aaron moved hesitantly, feeling like a man trying to walk on a cloud, unsure if he'd fall straight through or be carried somewhere he never imagined. Harper sat with her hands folded on her lap, watching him with eyes full of gratitude, curiosity, and something else, something softer. I meant what I said earlier. You didn't just help me up, you calmed me. You protected me. You didn't leave even when you clearly had somewhere important to be. Aaron tried to shrug it off, embarrassed. Anyone would have done the same. Harper gave him a look, a knowing one, a truthful one. No, she said quietly. They wouldn't have. I saw people walk right past me, like I didn't exist. Her words hung in the air. Vincent leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. My daughter is a senior project analyst in our development division. She's under enormous pressure. She deals with more responsibility than most people twice her age. That day, she hit a breaking point. Harper's gaze dropped for a moment, as if remembering the weight of that moment, the dizziness, the panic, the world blurring into white noise. I'd been working on a proposal for months, a huge one. One mistake, one oversight, and it all felt like it would collapse on top of me. I kept skipping meals, telling myself I'd eat later, sleep later, breathe later. She swallowed. Later never came. Aaron listened silently, his heart tightening. He had known exhaustion, but the kind that came from pressure rooted deep inside, pressure to succeed, pressure to be enough, was something he understood too well. Your father said you were on your way to fix a mistake, Aaron said gently. Yeah, and I thought if I didn't fix it that very second, I would fail the entire division. Her voice softened even further. The truth is, I was failing myself. Vincent placed a steady hand on his daughter's shoulder. It was a simple gesture, but one laced with love and the fear of almost losing what mattered most. My daughter is brilliant, but like most good leaders, she carries more than she should. And you, he pointed at Aaron, you reminded her that she doesn't have to collapse to prove her worth. Aaron opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. I'm glad she's okay, truly. Harper smiled, a real, unguarded smile this time. Thanks to you. Then Vincent cleared his throat, shifting into business mode again. I've seen your resume. Aaron tensed. It's honest, hardworking, not padded with nonsense. Vincent slid a folder across the table. But I don't care about credentials as much as most CEOs do. I care about judgment, heart, integrity. Vincent tapped the folder. This is an offer for an assistant operations coordinator role. Training included, full benefits, growth potential. It's a position we don't normally give to external applicants, especially not to ones without a degree. Aaron blinked. Sir, I don't know if I'm qualified for something like that. Vincent's eyes sharpened. You will be. There was no arrogance in the man's voice, just certainty. But as Aaron stared down at the offer letter, reality pierced through the haze of hope. His stomach knotted, his chest tightened. The truth crept in like a shadow. Mr. Lane, he said slowly. Both father and daughter looked at him attentively. I need to be honest. I didn't come from much. I still don't. I'm not polished. I don't have an impressive degree or the right connections or... He exhaled shakily. I don't want to accept a job out of pity or because you feel indebted. I want to earn whatever chance I get. The room went silent. Then Vincent stood up, walked around the desk, and sat next to Aaron, eye level now, not across from him. This is not pity, he said firmly. It's recognition. He placed a hand on the offer letter. In my company, people matter. Work ethic matters. Character matters. You showed all three in one moment on a sidewalk. Harper yawed. This isn't charity.
It's opportunity. You deserve a chance just like anyone else." Aaron's throat tightened. For a man who'd spent the last 2 years trying to climb out of the hole life kept pulling him back into, this felt like someone finally lowering a hand instead of another shovel. "Read the offer at home," Vincent said gently. "Think about it for a day if you need to. But know this, we want you here. And I don't make offers twice." Aaron shook his hand, not accepting yet, but acknowledging the sincerity behind the gesture. When he left the office, the sun outside felt different, brighter, warmer, as if the whole city had shifted by a few degrees. He boarded the bus back toward the neighborhood where the sidewalks cracked and the buses rusted and people hustled just to stay afloat. But this time, his heart wasn't weighed down. It felt light, hopeful, almost buoyant. He held the offer letter in his lap, afraid to crease it, afraid it might disappear if he looked away. He reread every line, every benefit listed, every number he'd never seen next to his name before. But something nagged at him, a whisper of doubt. Why me? Why would a massive corporation hand a job like this to someone like him? Could one act of kindness really rewrite his entire future? He wasn't used to life giving him anything except hard lessons, so part of him waited for the catch, the twist, the moment the opportunity vanished like a mirage. When he stepped off the bus near his small apartment complex, his neighbor Mrs. Delgado waved at him from her balcony, calling out, "You look lighter today, mijo. Someone give you good news?" Aaron laughed. "Maybe." She wagged a finger playfully. "Don't hide it from me. I can smell good news." He just shook his head and smiled, climbing the steps to his place. Inside, he sat at the tiny kitchen table, the offer letter spread out in front of him. The sun filtered through the blinds, striping the paper with warm, glowing lines. For the first time in his life, a future didn't feel like a fantasy. It felt near, within reach, a breath away. But just as he was about to sign the acceptance letter, his phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. He frowned and opened it. "You don't know the truth about them. Do not accept the offer. Please. H." Aaron's blood ran cold. Harper? Why would she warn him against the job her father offered? Why, unless something was very wrong? The room suddenly felt smaller, quieter, the kind of quiet that comes before a storm.
Aaron sat in the quiet corner of the break room, unsure whether he should even be there. The cafeteria-like space hummed with low conversation and the rhythmic clatter of utensils on plates. Employees in tailored suits and polished shoes laughed, debated, and discussed projects he didn't understand yet, all of them seeming worlds ahead of him. He felt out of place, like someone had picked him up from a dusty alley and dropped him onto the balcony of a penthouse. His ID badge, still shiny and stiff, hung around his neck like a reminder that he didn't quite belong, at least not yet. He had expected orientation paperwork, maybe a quick handshake, maybe the polite, rehearsed welcome HR usually gave new employees. He had not expected what had actually happened. The CEO's assistant, a woman who looked like she could silence a full boardroom with a single raised eyebrow, had escorted him to the top floor without explanation. She walked briskly, almost too briskly for Aaron to keep up, her heels clicking with sharp confidence across the marble tiles. She offered no small talk, no reassurance, no hint about what awaited him, just a curt nod when he thanked her for the escort. And then he had stepped into the CEO's office and saw her, Harper. The girl in the red dress, the girl he had thought about every night since that afternoon, the one he kept hoping was okay, the one he had wondered if he'd ever see again. She stood near the window, dressed in a pencil skirt and blouse now, her hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail that made her look older, more in control, but her eyes still carried the same softness he remembered. When she turned and saw him, her smile was instant, not forced, not polite, but grateful, real. He didn't understand any of it. Why was she there? Why had the CEO called for him? How in the world had she found him?
His thoughts had spun together like tangled threads he couldn't begin to separate. And then came the revelation. She wasn't just the girl he had helped. She was Harper Lane, daughter of Vincent Lane, founder and CEO of Western Industries, one of the biggest supply chain management corporations in the region. The kind of company with contracts so large they were mentioned in business news broadcasts and economic briefings. The kind of company where people dreamed of even getting an internship. Aaron had spent the entire time sitting on that leather sofa with his heart pounding so hard he thought the CEO would hear it. The CEO wore a calm, thoughtful expression, but the air around him held the weight of someone used to making decisions that affected thousands of lives. Yet when he looked at Aaron, there was no judgment in his eyes, only gratitude. But Aaron wasn't ready for gratitude like this, not from a man like him. He replayed the CEO's words in his head now while picking apart the sandwich he wasn't hungry enough to eat. "You didn't hesitate," Vincent said. 100 people must have passed my daughter that afternoon, and they kept walking, not you. Aaron swallowed, unable to respond. You sacrificed something to help her. I know you did. Most people only help when it's convenient. You helped when it wasn't, and that matters. Harper had leaned forward, hands clasped tightly. He remembered the way her voice trembled slightly when she spoke. I wanted to find you, she said. I owed you more than just a thank you. I didn't even know your name, but I knew I couldn't forget what you did. Her gaze had softened then, turning somewhere inward, toward a memory she wasn't proud of. I could have been seriously hurt that day, maybe worse. You stayed with me. You made sure I was okay when you didn't know me at all. Aaron tried to deflect, embarrassed by the praise, but she shook her head firmly. No, I need you to understand what that meant. I didn't realize how burnt out I was, how close I'd pushed myself to a breaking point. You didn't just help a stranger. You helped someone who desperately needed a moment of kindness, even if she didn't know it. Her father had nodded solemnly beside her. Aaron, he said, I looked at that footage. You could have left. You could have called an ambulance and walked off to your interview, but you didn't. Aaron remembered his hands going cold. His voice felt small when he finally managed to speak. I didn't want anything bad to happen to her. Vincent had smiled faintly. And because of that, something good happened for you. I won't pretend results always match intentions in this world. Often they don't. But sometimes, life rewards the choices we make when nobody's watching. Aaron had stared at the CEO, unable to process what he heard next. We want you here, Vincent said. Harper insisted, and I agree. You deserve a chance in a place where character matters. And from what I've seen, you have plenty of it. Then came the job offer. Bigger, better, more promising than anything he had ever imagined. He was still trying to wrap his head around the fact that the CEO himself had offered him a position, and not just because Harper had spoken up for him. It was because Vincent Lane had seen something in the way he acted when no one else did. And that terrified Aaron almost as much as it thrilled him. People like him didn't get opportunities like this. They didn't sit in a CEO's office. They didn't get thanked for doing the right thing. They didn't get job offers simply for being decent human beings. It felt unreal. Now, sitting alone in the break room, Aaron's mind raced. He'd met Harper again, he'd learned the truth about her life, her position, her family, and he'd somehow ended up working in the very company that had once turned him away. He couldn't decide whether he was dreaming or walking face first into a future he wasn't prepared for. Suddenly, the break room door opened. Aaron looked up. Harper stepped inside. Her presence softened the space instantly, as if she carried her own kind of light with her. She walked toward him with confidence but not arrogance, ease but not entitlement. She pulled up a chair and sat across from him, folding her arms on the table. So, she said playfully, we finally meet again properly. Aaron flushed and gave a small, awkward laugh. Yeah, I didn't exactly expect all this. I know, she said with a nod. Trust me, neither did I. There was sincerity in her voice, a hint of something unspoken, something fragile beneath her polished exterior. Look, she said softly, I know this is a lot. My dad can be intense. The company's huge.
Everything probably feels overwhelming right now. Aaron swallowed. A bit. But you got here for a reason, and not because of me. You got here because you did the right thing when you didn't have to. That matters more than you think. Aaron looked down at his hands, rubbing his thumb across the plastic edge of his ID badge. I'm still trying to believe all this is real, he admitted. Harper leaned back thoughtfully. Then give it time. You'll find your place here. Aaron looked up again. Their eyes met. Something in that moment settled inside him, quiet, steady, undeniable. For the first time since the day he missed that interview, it felt like maybe, just maybe, life hadn't punished him for doing the right thing. Maybe it had been preparing him for something bigger. And neither of them knew it yet. This revelation was only the beginning.
Aaron didn't realize how quickly rumors traveled in a company as massive as Western Industries. By his third week, whispers had already drifted through hallways and conference rooms like invisible threads tugging at his confidence. People who had never met him were suddenly curious about him. Some looked at him with mild fascination, others with irritation masked behind half-smiles, and a few with open resentment. He knew why. He hadn't earned this job in the traditional way. People thought he'd been handed an opportunity, skipped ahead, given a shortcut, rewarded for something they didn't understand. Or worse, something they thought they understood. The trouble started on a Wednesday morning. Aaron had been asked to assist the logistics coordination team by creating an updated flow report. He worked carefully, double-checking every conversion, every timestamp, every freight lane. Numbers calmed him. They didn't look at him differently. They didn't whisper. They didn't question his presence. But peace rarely lasted long. When he walked into the shared office space with the printed report in hand, he saw a group of employees huddled near the coffee machine. They didn't notice him at first, and their voices carried. 3 weeks in, and he's already presenting at the operations meeting? Please, you know exactly why. Yeah, saves the boss's daughter once, and suddenly he's climbing the ladder? Wish I'd known all I had to do was play hero. The laughter that followed was sharp, low, and cutting. Aaron stopped mid-step. His stomach tightened. He felt heat crawl up his neck, blooming under his collar. He didn't turn around. He didn't confront them. He simply walked quietly to his desk and set down the report. But the words stuck to him, like burrs. Hero, shortcut, boss's daughter. He didn't want any of this. He wasn't trying to climb anything. He just wanted a chance, a real one he could earn. But it seemed no matter how hard he tried, people were only seeing one version of the story, and it wasn't his. He threw himself into his duties, focusing so completely that hours passed unnoticed, but tension had a way of finding him again. Just after lunch, his supervisor, Irene Caldwell, approached his desk. She was a woman in her 40s, sharp and efficient, with eyes that evaluated everything around her. She wasn't unkind, but she wasn't gentle either. She had a reputation for fairness and for expecting excellence. She cleared her throat. "Aaron, a moment?" He stood quickly. "Yes, of course." She gestured toward an empty meeting room. He followed, his mind stirring with questions. He hadn't made any errors he knew of. He'd been careful, meticulous. He hoped nothing in the report had been wrong. But the moment they stepped inside, Irene turned toward him with a look he couldn't read. "I've heard some conversations," she began. His stomach dropped. "About me?" he asked quietly. She nodded once. "About how you came to work here." I closed my eyes for a moment. I figured people would talk. "They're not just talking," Irene said. "Some of them are questioning whether your presence is appropriate, whether your role was earned." He swallowed hard. "And what do you think?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. "I think you work hard. I think you're learning quickly. I think you're doing everything I've asked and doing it well." He breathed out slowly. "But," she added, her tone shifting, "I think perception is reality in a corporate environment. And right now, the perception is complicated." He stepped back slightly. He wasn't sure where to put his hands. He felt suddenly like a teenager being reprimanded by a teacher.
I didn't ask for favors. I didn't ask for special treatment. I know, she said, but others don't. What am I supposed to do? He asked helplessly. Her eyes softened just a fraction. Prove them wrong. The only thing that changes perception is consistency. He nodded. He understood. It wasn't what he wanted to hear, but it was fair. What about the operations meeting? Should I still present? She hesitated, just long enough for him to understand the answer before she said it. Yes, but be prepared. People will be watching closely. I'll be ready. He left the room with determination flickering inside him, small but growing. If people doubted him, he would give them no reason to do so. He would show up early, work harder, take every responsibility seriously, and prove, to them, to himself, that he deserved to be here. But the day wasn't done testing him. As the office was winding down in the late afternoon, Aaron headed toward the elevators, exhausted, but relieved he'd at least survived another day. Just as he reached for the elevator button, he heard a voice from behind him. "Well, if it isn't the golden boy." Aaron turned. 3 employees stood there. He recognized them: Lewis from data analytics, Carter from procurement, and Jess from inventory management. They weren't close to him, but they weren't strangers either. Their expressions were casual, but their eyes held a challenge. Aaron forced a polite smile. "Hey." Lewis crossed his arms. "Big day tomorrow, huh? Presenting with the senior managers?" "Yeah, just trying to do my best." "Sure," Carter snorted. "Must be nice having friends in high places." Jess smirked. "Or family connections, whichever works." The old shame crept in. Uninvited, unwarranted, heavy. "I don't have family here. I don't have connections. Oh, please," Carter cut in. "Everyone knows you got hired because of her." Lewis raised an eyebrow. "Harper Lane, the CEO's daughter, the one you saved." Aaron stiffened. "That's not what happened." Jess tilted her head. "Isn't it? I mean, how often does a nobody with no degree and no corporate experience get hired directly by the CEO and then gets promoted into a coordinator track within 3 weeks? Their words were sharp, not loud, but sharp enough to dig under his skin. He tried to stay calm. "I didn't ask for favors. I didn't ask for special treatment. Harper didn't give me anything. She just wanted to say thank you." Lewis stepped closer. "Then maybe she should stop visiting your floor. People are talking." Aaron blinked. "She came to see how I was doing." "That's exactly the problem," Carter said. "She doesn't visit."
Aaron didn't realize how quickly rumors traveled in a company as massive as Western Industries. By his 3rd week, whispers had already drifted through hallways and conference rooms like invisible threads tugging at his confidence. People who had never met him were suddenly curious about him. Some looked at him with mild fascination, others with irritation masked behind half-smiles, and a few with open resentment. He knew why. He hadn't earned this job in the traditional way. People thought he'd been handed an opportunity, skipped ahead, given a shortcut, rewarded for something they didn't understand, or worse, something they thought they understood. The trouble started on a Wednesday morning. Aaron had been asked to assist the logistics coordination team by creating an updated flow report. He worked carefully, double-checking every conversion, every timestamp, every freight lane. Numbers calmed him. They didn't look at him differently. They didn't whisper. They didn't question his presence. But peace rarely lasted long. When he walked into the shared office space with the printed report in hand, he saw a group of employees huddled near the coffee machine. They didn't notice him at first, and their voices carried. 3 weeks in and he's already presenting at the operations meeting? Please, you know exactly why. Yeah, saves the boss's daughter once and suddenly he's climbing the ladder? Wish I'd known all I had to do is play hero. The laughter that followed was sharp, low, and cutting. Aaron stopped mid-step. His stomach tightened. He felt heat crawl up his neck, blooming under his collar. He didn't turn around. He didn't confront them. He simply walked quietly to his desk and set down the report.
But the words stuck to him like burrs. Hero, shortcut, boss's daughter. He didn't want any of this. He wasn't trying to climb anything. He just wanted a chance. A real one he could earn. But it seemed no matter how hard he tried, people were only seeing one version of the story, and it wasn't his. He threw himself into his duties, focusing so completely that hours passed unnoticed. But tension had a way of finding him again. Just after lunch, his supervisor, Irene Caldwell, approached his desk. She was a woman in her 40s, sharp and efficient, with eyes that evaluated everything around her. She wasn't unkind, but she wasn't gentle either. She had a reputation for fairness and for expecting excellence. She cleared her throat. "Aaron, a moment?" He stood quickly. "Yes, of course." She gestured toward an empty meeting room. He followed, his mind stirring with questions. He hadn't made any errors he knew of. He had been careful, meticulous. He hoped nothing in the report had been wrong. But the moment they stepped inside, Irene turned toward him with a look he couldn't read. "I've heard some conversations," she began. His stomach dropped. "About me?" he asked quietly. She nodded once. "About how you came to work here." I closed my eyes for a moment. I figured people would talk. "They're not just talking," Irene said. "Some of them are questioning whether your presence is appropriate, whether your role was earned."
He swallowed, hard. "And what do you think?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. "I think you work hard. I think you're learning quickly. I think you're doing everything I've asked and doing it well." He breathed out slowly. "But," she added, her tone shifting, "I think perception is reality in a corporate environment. And right now, the perception is complicated." Aaron stepped back slightly. He wasn't sure where to put his hands. He felt suddenly like a teenager being reprimanded by a teacher. "I didn't ask for favors. I didn't ask for special treatment." "I know," she said, "but others don't." "What am I supposed to do?" he asked, helplessly. Her eyes softened just a fraction. "Prove them wrong. The only thing that changes perception is consistency." He nodded. He understood. It wasn't what he wanted to hear, but it was fair. "What about the operations meeting? Should I still present?" She hesitated, just long enough for him to understand the answer before she said it. "Yes, but be prepared. People will be watching closely." "I'll be ready," he said. He left the room with determination flickering inside him, small but growing. If people doubted him, he would give them no reason to. He would show up early, work harder, take every responsibility seriously, and prove, to them, to himself, that he deserved to be here. But the day wasn't done testing him. As the office was winding down in the late afternoon, Aaron headed toward the elevators, exhausted, but relieved he'd at least survived another day. Just as he reached for the elevator button, he heard a voice from behind him. "Well, if it isn't the golden boy." Aaron turned. 3 employees stood there. He recognized them: Lewis from data analytics, Carter from procurement, and Jess from inventory management. They weren't close to him, but they weren't strangers either. Their expressions were casual, but their eyes held a challenge. Aaron forced a polite smile. "Hey." Lewis crossed his arms. "Big day tomorrow, huh? Presenting with the senior managers?" "Yeah, just trying to do my best." Carter snorted. "Sure. Must be nice having friends in high places." Jess smirked. "Or family connections, whichever works." Aaron felt the old shame creep in. Uninvited, unwarranted, heavy. "I don't have family here. I don't have connections. Oh, please," Carter cut in. "Everyone knows you got hired because of her." Lewis raised an eyebrow. "Harper Lane, the CEO's daughter, the one you saved." Aaron stiffened. That's not what happened. Jess tilted her head. Isn't it? I mean, how often does a nobody with no degree and no corporate experience get hired directly by the CEO and then gets promoted into a coordinator track within 3 weeks? Their words were sharp, not loud, but sharp enough to dig under his skin. He tried to stay calm. I didn't ask for special treatment. Harper didn't give me anything. She just wanted to say thank you. Lewis stepped closer. Then maybe she should stop visiting your floor. People are talking. Aaron blinked. She came to see how I was doing. That's exactly the problem, Carter said. She doesn't visit anyone, not even her father's executives. Jess let out a cold laugh. So unless you two are, what, secretly dating or something? We're not, Aaron said quickly. Then she has no reason to be spending that much time with you. She's not, Aaron insisted. She came by once. Lewis shrugged. Once is enough to make people assume things. Aaron exhaled shakily. He didn't want to argue with them. He didn't want conflict. He wasn't built for confrontation. He just wanted to do his job. I'm not trying to make enemies, he said quietly. I'm just trying to be here, that's all. Carter stepped in even closer, his voice dropping low. Then stay in your lane. Aaron froze. Don't act like you've earned the same respect as the rest of us. We worked to get here. We fought for these positions. You just appeared. Like magic. Aaron's jaw tightened. He had been patient. He had been understanding. He had listened to every remark, endured every stare, swallowed every accusation. But something inside him stirred. Something he hadn't felt in a long time. Enough. I didn't ask for any of this, Aaron said, his voice still soft, but steadier now. I didn't ask for attention. I didn't ask for special hire. I helped someone because she needed help. I missed my interview. I lost my chance. He met each of their eyes. But I'm here now, and I'm going to work hard as any of you. Harder if I have to. Not because I owe anyone an explanation, but because I want to earn my place. Lewis looked at him, surprised by the firmness. Carter's expression darkened. Jess just raised her eyebrows. The elevator dinged behind him. The doors slid open. He stepped inside, but paused before the doors closed, meeting their stare with newfound resolve. You don't have to like me. But don't mistake kindness for weakness. I didn't take anyone's spot. I'm just trying to build a future. Same as you. The doors shut. And for the first time since he'd started working there, Aaron didn't feel like he was running from something. He felt like he was standing up to it. Little did he know, this confrontation was only the beginning of a much bigger storm.
The following morning arrived faster than Aaron wished. He barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he replayed the confrontation from the night before. Lewis's smear, Carter's warning, Jess's smirk. He had stood his ground, yes, but the tension clung to him like a film he couldn't wash off. Still, he woke early, dressed neatly, double-checked his presentation slides until he could practically recite them blind. He wasn't just preparing information, he was preparing himself, preparing to prove, not to Carter, not to the whispers, not even to the supervisors, but to himself that he belonged here. When he arrived at Western Industries headquarters, the atmosphere felt unusually charged. People moved with a kind of anticipatory energy, glancing toward the conference wing where the mid-quarter operations meeting would take place. Aaron tried not to think about how many of them might be watching him specifically. He took the elevator to the 14th floor, clutching his folder tighter than necessary. The hall outside the boardroom already buzzed with quiet conversation as senior managers, department heads, and project leads gathered. He recognized faces, even if many still didn't fully recognize him. "Morning," Irene Caldwell said, approaching him with a calm but firm expression. She wore professionalism like armor. You ready? Aaron nodded, even though his palms were sweating. Yes, I think so. She did solid work on the report. Stick to the facts, stay composed, and don't let anyone's reaction influence your pacing. I'll try, he said. Good. She paused. Her voice lowered. Just remember, you're here because you earned this chance, not because of anyone else. He swallowed. Thank you. They entered the boardroom. The space was enormous, lined with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Polished wood, chrome fixtures, soft leather chairs, everything in the room whispered money and power. Aaron took his seat near the end of the long table, acutely aware of every set of eyes around him. The meeting began with routine updates, supply chain issues, projected sales numbers, department efficiency reports. Aaron followed along closely, steadying his nerves. Then, after nearly an hour, Irene announced, "Our final segment is an updated logistics optimization report. It will be presented by our new assistant coordinator, Aaron Whitlock." The room shifted. Heads turned. Conversations paused. Aaron's breath hitched. He stood and walked to the front, placing his papers on the podium. For a heartbeat, the silence was deafening. But then he looked at the screen behind him, the charts, graphs, the work he had poured himself into. He began. And something happened that surprised even him. Once he started talking, the nerves loosened their grip. The numbers were familiar. The data was clear. He explained the inefficiencies in freight timing, offered revised distribution cycles, and presented projected savings if the new strategy was implemented. At first, a few managers exchanged skeptical looks, but as he continued, some began nodding, leaning forward, taking notes. He was halfway through his final slide when a voice cut through the room. "Where did you source your comparative carrier data?" Aaron looked toward the questioner, Mr. Dalton, a reputation for grilling presenters until they cracked. He was known for singling out newcomers. Aaron steadied himself. "I cross-referenced the internal database with third-party analytics from the vendor portal. Slide 17 covers the discrepancies." Dalton raised an eyebrow, but didn't push further. "Very well." Another manager spoke up. "Your projected savings model, have those assumptions been run through finance?" "Yes," Aaron said. "I checked them with Priya in accounting yesterday afternoon." Priya nodded from across the room. "Confirmed." A murmur of approval passed through the table. Aaron continued taking questions. Every answer came from a place of honest effort, no shortcuts, no guesswork. And little by little, he felt the room changing. Not entirely, not magically, but enough. When he finished, Irene took the floor again. "Thank you, Aaron. Excellent work." For a second, he just stood there, stunned. People actually applauded. Not everyone, but enough that warmth spread across his chest like a sunrise he never expected. As he took his seat again, he noticed Lewis, Carter, and Jess standing against the back wall. They weren't in this department, but had clearly come to observe. Their expressions were difficult to read. Lewis looked uneasy. Jess looked surprised. Carter looked irritated. But none of them said a word. The meeting continued for another 20 minutes, but Aaron barely heard anything. When it finally adjourned, people began filtering out. A few managers approached him. "Good presentation. Well done. Promising work, young man." He managed to respond politely, though his heart was still racing. As the crowd thinned, Irene tapped his shoulder. "That was impressive, Aaron." Aaron exhaled slowly. "Thank you. You've set a good precedent for yourself. Keep it up." He nodded. She left the room. Aaron gathered his papers, feeling a mixture of pride and exhaustion. He stepped into the hallway, only to freeze at the sight of a familiar figure waiting by the elevators. Harper. She looked out of place in her bright teal dress amidst the corporate suits, but she looked confident, stronger than the person he had helped weeks ago. She smiled when she saw him. "Hey, I heard your presentation went well." "You did?" he asked, startled. She nodded. "Dad told me." "I think it went okay." "It went better than okay. You look like someone who proved himself today." He didn't know how to respond. Praise felt unfamiliar. They stepped into the elevator together. As the doors slid shut, Harper glanced at him, her voice softening. "I saw the way some people here look at you, like they think you don't deserve to be here." Aaron looked down. "People can think whatever they want." "I don't," she said gently. He swallowed thickly. "Thank you." The elevator chimed, the doors opened, they walked into the lower lobby, heading toward the exit. Harper continued talking, unaware, or perhaps very aware, of the eyes watching them from the mezzanine above, including Carter's, including Jess's, including several others who saw an interaction they didn't understand and were eager to distort. Outside the building, the air was cooler than usual. A breeze lifted Harper's hair. She turned to Aaron. "You did the right thing that day, helping me. And today, you earned your place here. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." He gave a shy, grateful nod. "I'm trying. I know you are." She hesitated before adding, "If you ever need someone in your corner, you can call me." His pulse jumped, but before he could answer, a voice broke the moment. "Well, isn't this cozy?" Aaron stiffened. He didn't have to turn around to know who it was. Carter. Harper's expression twisted into irritation. "Do you need something?" Carter ignored her question and looked squarely at Aaron, eyes burning with something sharp and jealous. "Congratulations on the show in the boardroom, but maybe try not to spend your breaks flirting with the CEO's daughter. Makes people think you're still using your advantage." Aaron's stomach dropped. "That's not what—" Harper stepped forward. "Excuse me?" Carter smirked. "Just saying, some of us work years to get recognized. Others get fast-tracked because they know how to charm the right people." Harper's voice shot out like lightning. "He didn't charm anyone. He saved my life, you ungrateful—" Aaron said quickly, stepping in between them. The last thing he needed was an explosion in front of the building. But she wasn't backing down. "This is harassment, and if you think you can bully him out of this job—" Carter lifted his hands mockingly. "Relax, I'm just making an observation." Aaron felt something break inside him. Not anger, exactly, but a quiet exhaustion, a heavy understanding. It didn't matter how well he performed. It didn't matter how many hours he worked. It didn't matter how good the presentation was. There would always be people ready to twist his story, ready to drag down anyone who climbed without permission. Harper's eyes softened when she saw the weight on his face. She turned to him instead. "Don't listen to him," she whispered. But the damage was done. By the time Aaron walked home that day, the whispers in the building had doubled. People weren't just questioning his skills, they were questioning his relationship with Harper, his motives, his character. And worst of all,
Someone, he didn't know who, had taken a photo of him and Harper leaving the elevator together. By the next morning, it would be circulating through the company, and the fallout would hit harder than he ever imagined.
The next morning, Aaron sensed something was wrong the moment he walked into the building. It wasn't anything loud or obvious. No confrontation, no scene, just a shift. A subtle tightening of space around him. Conversations dipped as he passed. A few people glanced his way, then leaned toward each other as soon as he walked by. He tried to ignore it, tried to believe it was in his head. But when he reached his desk, the truth sat waiting for him like a silent accusation. A printed photo, placed neatly on his keyboard. A photo of him and Harper leaving the elevator together yesterday. Her smiling, him looking down shyly. Innocent, harmless, yet framed in a way that made it look intimate, opportunistic, as if he'd planned it. Under the photo was a handwritten note in block letters. "Fast way to the top. Nice." He stared at it. His throat tightened. He looked around. Nobody made eye contact, though he could feel several people watching in the corners of their eyes. He folded the photo, tucked it into his drawer, and forced himself to breathe.
forced himself to start working.
But it wasn't long before the whispers reached him. Told you it wasn't merit. He's getting special treatment. That's the CEO's daughter. What did you expect? Makes sense why he got that presentation slot. Every word landed like a small bruise.
By lunchtime, the speculation had escalated. He entered the break room, only to hear two analysts speaking loudly enough that it was clear they wanted him to hear. "Must be nice to skip the line," one said, stirring his coffee. "Yeah, some people work for years. Others just get lucky," the other replied. Aaron set down his lunch quietly, forcing a polite nod. The coffee stirrer smirked. "Oh, sorry. Didn't see you there." Aaron grabbed his food and left. He wasn't angry, not at first, just tired. Tired in a way that made his bones feel heavier than usual. He knew life would never be fair, but he hadn't expected this. That evening, he stayed late to avoid the stairs. The office lights dimmed, one row at a time as people clocked out. Eventually, only a few small pools of light remained. He worked quietly on a new logistics draft, double-checking numbers, wanting to prove his worth again and again, despite everything. Around 7:42 p.m., someone approached. He looked up. It was Lewis. Hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. Aaron braced himself for more trouble. But Lewis didn't smirk or taunt. He simply said, "Hey, heard about the photo." Aaron stiffened. "Of course you did. Everyone has." Lewis shifted awkwardly, scratching his jaw. "Listen, man, I just wanted to say something." Aaron blinked, not expecting whatever this was. Lewis exhaled. "The guys on my floor, they're idiots. I'm not pretending I didn't give you a hard time before, but even I know you didn't ask for this. Harper, she's always been private. If she talked to you, it's because she wanted to." Aaron stared, unsure how to respond. "Just don't let them get to you," Lewis added. "They'll move on to something else soon enough. They always do." Aaron nodded slowly. "Thanks." Lewis gave a short nod and left. It wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't friendship, but it was something. Still, the company rumor mill didn't slow down. If anything, it grew sharper the next day. As soon as Aaron arrived, Carter was waiting by the elevator banks with a polished smile. Jess was with him, leaning casually against the wall. "Well, if it isn't the rising star. Been busy taking the CEO's daughter on elevator dates?" Carter snorted. Aaron kept walking. "Not interested, Carter." "See, acting all high and mighty now that he's connected." Jess chimed in. "Careful. Wouldn't want someone to think you're climbing too fast." Aaron stopped and looked them both in the eye. "That presentation? I earned it. Anyone who doubts it can check my work." Carter raised an eyebrow. "Oh, we know you worked on it. But the question is, would Irene have let you present it if Vincent Lane had suddenly taken such an interest in you?" Aaron felt something twist inside him. "If you think I want special treatment, you don't know me." "Please," Carter scoffed, stepping closer. "You're the kind of guy who plays the Good Samaritan act so you can get ahead. Don't pretend otherwise." Aaron clenched his jaw, struggling to stay calm. Jess added softly, "People notice things. All I'm saying." But before the tension could escalate, a voice cut through the hallway. "What exactly are you implying?" Harper. She stood a few feet away, arms crossed, eyes steely. She was dressed sharply today, a fitted blazer, tailored pants, hair in a neat low bun. She looked older, stronger, more composed than the trembling girl Aaron had helped in the street. Carter immediately straightened. "Harper, hey, I was just—" "You were spreading lies," she said coldly, "and harassing someone who did nothing to deserve it." Jess opened her mouth, but Harper wasn't finished. "If I see either of you, trying to belittle him again, I will report it directly to HR, and I won't need my father to back me up." Carter's bravado wavered. Jess looked away. Harper stepped beside Aaron. "Come on," she said softly. "Walk with me." He followed silently as they moved down the corridor. When they were out of earshot, Harper slowed her pace, turning to him with a mixture of regret and anger in her eyes. "Aaron," she whispered, "I am so sorry. I didn't want any of this to happen." He shook his head. "It's not your fault." "Yes, it is," Harper insisted. "They're attacking you because of me." He swallowed. "They were looking for a reason. Any reason. This just made it easy." She winced. I should have kept things more private. I should have been more careful." Aaron gave her a tired smile. "You fainted on the street. It's not exactly something you could plan." She laughed weakly, then grew serious again. "Let me fix this." "You don't have to." "I want to." He hesitated. Not because he doubted her sincerity, but because he knew the truth. Her stepping in might make things worse. Harper studied him quietly. "They don't know you. They don't know your heart. But I do." The words hit deeper than she probably realized. Before he could respond, a voice echoed from down the hall. "Harper? Aaron, I need you both in my office, now." Vincent Lane. He stood outside his glass-walled office with an expression that wiped every remaining thought from Aaron's mind. And as Aaron followed Harper into the CEO's office, a single realization hit him with startling clarity. Something big had happened. Something bigger than rumors. Bigger than Carter's jealousy. Bigger than a photo in a hallway. Because sitting on Vincent's desk, right in plain view, was a printed email. Subject line: unethical behavior regarding Aaron Whitlock. And beneath it, formal complaint submitted. Someone had escalated the rumors. Someone wanted Aaron out. And the real battle was about to begin.
The door shut behind them with a soft thud that felt far too loud in Aaron's ears. Vincent motioned for them to sit, but neither Harper nor Aaron moved. The tension in the room didn't allow for it, not yet. Vincent didn't force them. He simply walked behind his desk, picked up the printed email, and slid it toward them. Aaron swallowed hard. Harper's breath caught in her throat. "A formal complaint was submitted this morning," Vincent said, voice steady but edged, "accusing Aaron of exploiting a personal relationship with my daughter to gain professional advantages." Aaron felt his stomach drop. He expected rumors, whispers, snide comments, but not this. Not something written, filed, recorded. Vincent continued, "The complaint also accuses Harper of favoritism and Irene of participating in misconduct by approving Aaron for opportunities he did not earn." Harper's eyes widened. "What? That's ridiculous. None of that is true." "I know," Vincent said. "But the accusation exists, and once something like this is submitted, HR is obligated to investigate." Aaron forced himself to look down at the document. He recognized the tone. Sharp, cold, calculated. Someone wrote it with intent, not emotion. He skimmed the bottom. The signature was redacted on this printed version. But Vincent must have seen his confusion because he said, "It was submitted anonymously." Of course it was. Harper ran a shaky hand through her hair. "Dad, you don't believe this, right?" Vincent looked at her. Not as a CEO, not even as a father, but as someone who'd been blindsided. "No," he said, "I don't believe it. But the board, they will demand due process. And once an investigation starts, the person being scrutinized becomes vulnerable. Every move, every decision, every interaction.
Aaron felt his chest tighten. So, what happens now? I can't stop the investigation, Vincent replied. That would make it look like I'm interfering. What I can do is make sure you have representation and that you're protected during the review. No one will terminate you or suspend you. A pause. But I need you both to understand something. Whoever filed this went for maximum damage. This wasn't a complaint. This was a chess move. Harper's voice cracked. Against Aaron? Vincent nodded slowly. Against him, and possibly against me. Silence. Thick, heavy, suffocating. Aaron stared at the email again, pulse hammering in his ears. Someone wanted him out. Badly. Someone calculated enough to weaponize a harmless situation. Someone with access. With motive. But who? Harper seemed to reach the same conclusion at the same moment. Dad, it has to be someone inside the departments, someone who saw us in the elevator, someone who already had a problem with Aaron, someone who benefits if he disappears. Aaron thought immediately of Carter, of Jess, of the photo, the whispers. Vincent leaned back in his chair. Harper, I've been in this business long enough to know something important. Most sabotage doesn't come from rivalry. It comes from insecurity, from people protecting the only power they think they have. Harper took a shaky breath. We can fight this. Yes, Vincent said, but carefully. Aaron's hands curled into fists in his lap. He could endure gossip. He could endure snide comments. But this, his name tied to misconduct, his reputation thrown into question, he'd worked his entire life to avoid becoming an easy target. But here he was again, right in the bullseye. Dad, Harper said, voice firming, we have to find out who submitted that complaint. And we will, Vincent replied, but I don't want either of you confronting anyone. Not yet. Aaron nodded automatically. Harper did not. Vincent caught the hesitation. Harper, I mean it. I hear you, she said, but she didn't confirm anything. Aaron felt her tension beside him like a physical thing. Harper, Vincent added, softer this time, don't do anything rash. She looked away. Vincent exhaled. Aaron, you'll continue working as usual. I'll inform Irene about the complaint privately so she can manage team expectations. I trust her discretion. Aaron nodded. And, Harper, Vincent said with gentler eyes, I want you to step back from the office for a few days. Aaron froze. Harper's face flushed red. What? Why? I didn't do anything. I know, Vincent said, but you're a target now. Removing yourself from the environment protects you and removes the appearance of favoritism. It also takes ammunition away from whoever is doing this. Harper clenched her jaw so hard it trembled. So I just disappear and let them keep attacking Aaron? It's not disappearing, Vincent said calmly. It's strategy. But, Aaron cut in softly, Harper, he's right. She turned to him sharply. Don't take his side. I'm not, Aaron said. I don't want you dragged into this. I can handle the investigation. No, you can't, she snapped, voice breaking. Not alone. Vincent rose slowly from his chair. This isn't about choosing sides. It's about protecting both of you from a calculated attack. And Harper, listen to me. If you stay, this gets worse. Much worse. She sank into the nearest chair, breathing hard, staring at nothing. The room fell quiet again. Finally, Vincent said, I'll give HR the official notice in the morning. You'll both be updated on the process. Aaron felt numb. The meeting ended with no dramatic exit, no shouting, no slammed doors. Just 3 people walking out with more weight on their shoulders than they'd walked in with. But as they left, Harper grabbed Aaron's arm and pulled him toward an empty conference room. She shut the door and finally let herself unravel. I'm not letting them do this to you, she said fiercely. "I'm not letting them ruin everything you built." "I'll be fine," Aaron insisted, though his voice lacked conviction, even to his own ears. "No, you won't," Harper said. "You're not the type who fights dirty, but whoever filed that complaint, they are." She paced the room, running both hands through her hair repeatedly. Aaron watched her, torn between guilt and gratitude. "Harper," Aaron said quietly, "please listen to your father. Stepping back is the right move." Her eyes snapped to him. "Do you really believe that?" "Yes." She closed her eyes, took a long breath, let it out unevenly. "Fine," she whispered. "I'll step back. But not because they win, because I'll do what I have to in order to protect you. And when I'm back," she hardened to steel, "I'm going to find out who did this." Aaron didn't doubt her. Not for a second. And when she finally left the building that day, Aaron watched her go with a knot in his throat. The hallway felt colder without her. And as he returned to his desk, he found another note waiting for him. This one wasn't anonymous. It was from Irene. "See me now." His heart sunk. Because whatever she had to say, it was going to change everything.
When Aaron stepped into Irene's office, the door closed behind him with a heaviness that made his pulse stutter. She didn't greet him. She simply gestured toward the chair across from her desk, her expression unreadable. He obeyed, silently, bracing himself. Irene folded her hands, leaned forward, and studied him the way only someone who had survived decades of corporate warfare could. "I'm going to ask you one question," she said quietly, "and I expect an honest answer." Aaron nodded, throat dry. "Did you, or did you not, build personal ties with Harper Lane to advance your position at this company?" Aaron blinked, stunned by how bluntly she said it. "No, absolutely not. I didn't even know who she was when I helped her." Irene held his gaze for a long moment, as if analyzing every micro-expression, every hesitation. Eventually, she leaned back and exhaled. "That's what I thought." Relief washed through him, only for tension to clamp down again when Irene opened a folder on her desk. Inside were several printed pages. "This," she said, tapping the stack, "is everything HR has so far. Witness observations, anonymous statements, screenshots of internal messages. Some of it is useless gossip. Some of it, unfortunately, is damaging. Even if it isn't based on truth." Aaron felt sick. Damaging how? Irene slid the first page toward him. Carter had sent a message to 3 team leads the night before, claiming Aaron had leveraged personal access to the CEO's daughter. The wording was careful, just suggestive enough to trigger suspicion. Jess had provided a statement about inappropriate closeness between Aaron and Harper in the elevator. Another employee noted that Aaron received unprecedented access and had quickly risen in trust with upper management. On their own, each piece was nothing. Together, they formed the shape of an accusation. Irene watched his face tighten, watched the hurt flicker in his eyes. "You understand," she said softly, "why HR cannot ignore this." "Yes," he whispered, "I do." "But," she added, closing the folder, "I did my own digging." Aaron looked up. "I pulled badge logs from that day. I checked every camera angle. I reviewed Harper's schedule. And I reviewed yours." He waited, heart hammering. "There is no evidence of misconduct, not one piece. Every interaction you had with her has been accounted for. And everything you've done on this job, fully compliant." She leaned forward again. "You are not the problem, Aaron." "So who is?" he asked quietly. Her jaw tightened. Carter, for one, possibly Jess,
but I suspect there's someone else, someone willing to weaponize them. People like Carter are pawns. They don't think big enough to plan something like this. Aaron felt a cold shock run through him. Then who? Irene's eyes hardened, bright with certainty. Someone who wants power. Someone who wants Harper out of the picture. Someone who wants you gone before you can threaten their position. Someone who stands to benefit if Vincent Lane's attention is redirected elsewhere. Aaron swallowed hard. You think it's someone on the executive level? I think, Irene said, that someone is afraid of you because you did what they never could. What's that? You earned Vincent's respect without manipulation, and you earned Harper's trust without agenda. She stood up. I need you to be strong for the next few days. HR is conducting final interviews. After that, everything will fall into place. Aaron nodded, though fear gnawed at him. And Aaron, she added, voice softening, don't lose hope. You've done nothing wrong. Believe me, the truth will find its way out. It always does. He left the office shaken, but steadier. Still, the next 3 days crawled by like time itself was resisting the truth. HR called him in. He repeated his statement again and again. He answered every question clearly, honestly. By day 3, whispers grew louder. Side glances lingered longer. Carter smirked more openly. Jess avoided eye contact. Aaron kept his head down. He remembered Vincent's warning, and he remembered Harper's promise. She would find who did this. On the 4th morning, everything changed. He arrived to find the building buzzing, restless, electric. People gathered near the elevators, whispering with wide eyes. Irene appeared beside him so suddenly he flinched. It's time, she said. For what? For the reckoning. He followed her through the hall. The executive conference room loomed ahead, filled with board members, HR representatives, and a handful of department heads, including Carter and Jess, both pale and stiff. Then he saw her. Harper. She stood near the center of the room, chin high, eyes blazing with the fierce determination he'd seen the day she promised to protect him. She wore no makeup, no corporate mask, just herself. Strong and unyielding. Vincent stood beside her. The room quieted as Aaron entered. Vincent motioned for him to stand beside Harper. And then the door locked, with a firm click. Vincent stepped forward. Thank you all for coming. We are here today because a formal complaint was filed against Aaron Whitlock. Murmurs rippled through the room, but Vincent continued. After a thorough investigation, we found no wrongdoing, no misconduct, no evidence of manipulation or favoritism. Carter shifted uncomfortably. Jess's eyes darted to the door. Harper stepped forward. And I found the source of the complaint. The room froze. She pulled a sheet of paper from her folder and set it on the table. It wasn't anonymous. The original digital copy wasn't scrubbed correctly. The metadata contained a user ID belonging to Daniel Pierce. A gasp rippled across the room. Daniel. The VP of Operations. A man who had built his image on ruthless competence and polished charm. A man with a bright future. Many expected he'd be CEO someday. Daniel's face went blank. Too blank. Vincent's eyes turned ice cold. Daniel? Care to explain? Daniel opened his mouth, but Harper didn't let him. You've been undermining my father for months, leaking information to the board to weaken him, sabotaging internal teams, and when that wasn't enough, you targeted Aaron. Daniel's composure cracked. This is absurd. Harper didn't blink. No, What's absurd is thinking you could break someone like Aaron and get away with it. Vincent slid a second paper forward. We traced communications from your office to Carter, coaching him, encouraging him, feeding him information. Carter's face went white. Jess burst into tears. Irene stepped in. We have full logs. We also found drafts of additional accusations you plan to submit over the next month. Daniel's facade collapsed, inch by inch. You wanted Aaron out, Harper said, not because he did anything wrong, but because he had something you never did. Vincent finished. Character. Daniel's breath shook, anger turning his face red. You're making a mistake. No. Vincent said calmly, you did. And now you're finished. Security arrived moments later. Daniel didn't fight.
He just stared at Aaron with a hatred so raw it stunned him. You cost me everything, he hissed as they escorted him out. Aaron didn't respond, because deep down they all knew the truth. Daniel had cost himself everything. The moment the door closed, the entire room seemed to exhale. Vincent turned to Aaron. I owe you an apology, he said. You don't, Aaron replied. I do, Vincent insisted. You should never have been dragged into this, and you certainly shouldn't have suffered because of your integrity. Harper stepped closer. I told you I'd protect you. Aaron met her eyes, feeling something warm and steady settle inside him. Yeah, he whispered. You did. Vincent smiled faintly. Aaron, I'd like to officially offer you a promotion. Full coordinator. Benefits increased. Your own team within the year. Aaron's breath cocked. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Harper whispered. He did. The meeting dissolved after that. Board members murmuring apologies, HR scribbling furiously, Irene giving him a rare, genuine smile. But the moment that stayed with him came after everyone left. Harper and Aaron remained in the empty conference room, sunlight spilling across the long table. She looked at him softly. I'm proud of you. He laughed, a shaky, relieved laugh. I'm proud of you too. She stepped closer. Aaron, everything you did, it mattered. And not just to the company. He felt his heartbeat skip. She wasn't talking about board politics. She wasn't talking about sabotage. She was talking about that day on the street, the moment he'd chosen kindness over opportunity. He looked into her eyes, clear, bright, unafraid. I'm glad I stopped to help you, he said quietly. She smiled, touching his hand gently. You didn't just help me, you changed my life. And for the first time, Aaron believed that maybe, just maybe, life rewarded kindness after all.